So you mean it went?
All right, welcome folks. Going to give everyone a couple minutes to join, but excited to have you calling or joining in from all over the world. We got an awesome panel, just had a fun little backstage conversation and looking forward to sharing more. Jason, all right, welcome. Juan, nice to see you.
Oh, there's Juan Miguel. Hey.
Mac, what's up, bud?
I love that. And Jason Dan too. Recently moving around. I like it.
Heavy hitters. We got Carl here, Carl Vidal. Nice to see you. I like that Zoom shows you all the names so you can
I do too.
And our community is small enough where you're like, okay, we know everyone. It's like
I'm waiting for somebody to put some like princess something or other in there.
There we go. There we go.
I would definitely do that one.
All right.
That would be on Travis. He would do that.
We're going to give 2 more minutes and then this webinar is going to be recorded. So for folks who join late, they'll get the recording, but yeah, we've got a lot to cover today and not a ton of time, which means we want to get to materials. Any fun stories? Brooke, do you have a fun story to share? Anything new in your world?
Oh my gosh. No, I'm just down here in Bethany Beach, Delaware, just enjoying some time. It's my lovely bride's birthday, so we decided to come down here for a couple of days. We're empty nesters now, so it's kind of cool to be able to travel. You know, as long as I have a laptop and an internet connection, I'm good to go.
Congrats. All right. Congrats on the empty nest. Yeah. My parents became so much cooler after we were out of the home. I'm sure the same is going to happen to you.
Travis is going to be 80 by the time his kids are in college, though.
Yeah, no kidding.
Me too. That's for sure. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Also, we're gonna dive in. We'll have more folks join throughout, and that's how we're gonna roll today. Welcome to the modern owner acquisition, retention, and expansion discussion. We've got an awesome crew here today. I think the first and only thing I'm going to posit on a slide here is that the reason we wanted to get these teams together between Vintory, Nectar, and Travis on both as an operator, but also running the Hunters Collection is I think there's I think we're seeing a really interesting professionalization of how people are expanding their businesses and how they're thinking about monetizing their businesses in the short-term and vacation rental space. And we were just talking backstage, and this crew probably has north of 60 years of experience within the category. So one thing we will discuss at some point today is like, why now and kind of where is this world going? But without further ado, I want to get folks to introduce themselves. Brooke, we're going to start with you to tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about Vintory. We're going to do the deeper dive later, but give us the kind of high level of your company, and then we'll talk about Nectar, Hunters Collection next.
Yeah, perfect. So again, excited to be here. Thanks for putting this all together, Andrew. Yeah, well, first, I've been in the short-term space for about 15 years, started a company called Vantage Resort Realty in Ocean City, Maryland. Built that company pretty fast, built it to 500 properties, exited that. And then, yeah, 4 years ago, launched Vintory. And Vintory, we're a sales and marketing platform that does one thing and one thing only. That's help professional short-term vacation rental managers add more properties. So we don't do anything on the ops side. We don't do anything on the guest side. We focus exclusively on adding inventory.
Excellent. More on that soon. Derrick, take it away.
Similar. So I've been in the real estate space since 2010, where I started out buying single family properties, then worked in finance in Wall Street for a while, trading bonds at Goldman Sachs. But since 2013, I've mostly spent most of my career buying, renovating, and selling apartment complexes. I had a pretty big short-term rental portfolio within that portfolio. So I had about 4,500 apartment units, 125 unit short-term rentals within there. And started Nectar 2021 for similar one reason only, and that's provide fast and flexible capital to real estate entrepreneurs out there who own and manage stabilized properties. And that's what we do. We can work to for any experienced real estate entrepreneur, whether you're owner or manager, if you have stabilized properties, we provide capital and pretty fast and flexibly.
Love it. Okay. And Jess.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the all over everything kind of a gal. I know a lot of the people on the webinar. I recognize a lot of these names. I know all of you guys, of course. I've been in the industry for just north of a decade, either with my own vacation rental management company, my own vacation rental, and then just moved to rented for a little while, live res, kind of worked under the Inhabit umbrella, and I'm stoked to be part of the Nectar team now. It's awesome to go to events and see all these great familiar faces, and I'm just super happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, we love having you here. Thanks for
Thanks.
joining. And Travis, round us out.
All right. So I've been doing this since 2007. Built, I kind of fell into the industry, just like most people. Built a guest house behind my main house back in 2007 before it was popular. Said I was going to rent it out nightly. Everybody told me I was a complete fool. That ended up working quite well. That was back in the day when there was like 5 listings on Vrbo or HomeAway at the time. And 2010 started the professional company called Stay Charlottesville. Still have it to this day. About that time, 25 listings on HomeAway, Vrbo. A couple years later, that nearly tripled. Realized that was going to become a real expensive game to play. So built an event venue to create a marketing machine. Then did a wine tour company. Started managing a hotel. The next thing I knew, I owned a tourism hospitality group, and just had my finger on the pulse of this industry for quite a while. Love it. Absolutely love the mom and pop operators, if you will. And then most recently, co-founded the 100 Collection, working with some of the creme de la creme of vacation rental groups throughout the country, soon to be the globe. So
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, love it. Okay. And we're going to circle back because I want to talk to you all about, I want to get a little more out of you, a little table setting for folks here of really what your service is, who your service is geared towards, and walking through a customer example. And let's actually just for the sake of ease here, let's do the same order. So Brooke, we'll start with you. Derrick will go to you next, and Travis after that. But Brooke, tell us a little bit more about who your service is geared towards. I know you work with a bunch of businesses. Tell us about them, how they use you, et cetera.
Yeah. So these companies range, literally, we have partners with 1 or 2 properties, and we have partners with almost close to 4,000 properties under management. But our typical partner has anywhere between, call it 25 and 150 properties. Somebody that's interested in growing their inventory and growing their portfolio. Mm-hmm. And our platform is really, it's 3 parts. The first is data, because it all starts with data. We compile data from multiple different sources, public records. We scrape the OTAs to get and overlay that data over top of it. We get vacation rental permit data, and then we we append it with emails and phones, and obviously get the mailing address and things like that. So once our partners kind of identify who they want to target, what kind of properties they want to go after, then our marketing platform allows you to kind of target those owners in a couple different ways. One is through email. Cold email outreach actually works. The other way is through direct mail. So we have like our version of Canva built into our, that allows you to really easily proven be effective based on, all the experience and all the data that we have out there. And then you can also do some outbound digital marketing types of things to get people to, inquire about your services, your property management services. Once they kind of raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested, then we have a CRM and marketing automation platform that kind of nurtures those leads all the way through, and then it helps you kind of close them. So it's from nurturing all the way through closing, and even actually helps you onboard some of those properties. Our platform does that.
Nurture through close. I love it. And just to double click real quick, any tips? Like, what do you notice between direct mail, email, other marketing needs? Is there something that you see or recommend folks try first?
All the above, but I guess the email is actually one. Well, building out a really good landing page is the first thing you should do, and it's the lowest hanging fruit, and almost nobody ever does it. I mean, if you go to most, you spend all this time, money, and effort, you have these great looking websites, and it seems like they're, inquire about, management services is like an afterthought. So designing a really well-designed landing page is usually the first thing I tell them to do, because you have all this existing traffic already coming to your website, so you just want to convert it. But if you want some cheap or inexpensive things, cold email outreach actually works. There's just an art to designing it, and there's a whole system of actually doing really well designed. I'm not talking like Constant Contact or MailChimp type of email, but actually more cold outreach. It's usually pretty effective and pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. Cool. Landy Page making the ask. And Derrick, I actually met your teammate at VRMA. I was walking down the hall. I'd heard about you all about 6 months before. This is last fall. And by the time we were finished with our walk and talk, I was blown away by what you all were doing, how you're helping folks out. Tell us a little bit more about who do you serve, how are they using you, et cetera.
Awesome. Thanks. And I appreciate that. So we are primarily serving people who are experienced real estate entrepreneurs. In my experience, you don't need to have the 60 years of experience that we have on this call. We're looking target, it's like 3 years in the owning, managing properties. That's kind of what we're looking for. If you have a little bit less, we can make exceptions. It'll just, impact our cost of capital. And what our core product is a cash advance, where we're looking at your existing cash flow, and we give you an advance so that you can use for a down payment or CapEx, so finishing a renovation project, or furnishing, or to buy another management company or anything. We've had like multiple different use cases. And the way it would work, for easy numbers, so we, I guess one point is we work with your mortgage. So we're not a mortgage, which is a question we get all the time. We work with your existing mortgage company if you are owner of the property. We'll also provide financing to management companies as well. And the way that you think about it is we'll give you $100,000 for a 1 to 5 year term, and you pay back an annual fee of say between 12 to 15%. So in a 1 year term, we'll give you 100, you pay us back 112. 5 year term, whatever 12 times 5 is, plus 100,000.
60K, yeah. Somewhere around there, yeah. A little more. Yeah.
Yeah, in equal payments. So we've had people use us to finance the acquisition of a property management company, so of a competitor, to get into a new market, where they can use their existing cash flow and the cash flow of the management company and leverage multiple years of that cash flow in order to make an acquisition. Or we've had managers who don't own any properties, they want to buy their first property, and they can leverage their management fee income for a down payment to buy one or several properties.
And Jess, I'm going to come to you for this one.
Yeah.
When I was saying modern owner acquisition, retention, expansion, I was kind of giving a nod to Nectar. But that was a cool story that I had heard about property managers being able to go and expand their best owners. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of really great use cases. And this is one of the reasons I came to Nectar. This is an incredible unlock for the vacation rental industry. It's something I saw when I was at LiveRes. It's something I saw when I was at Rented. Owners are always looking to acquire new properties for their portfolio. Maybe they're using Brooke, maybe they're, part of the 100 collection, and they likely, or maybe, or hopefully use Wheelhouse. But the really cool thing about it is whether or not you own your own property, if you are an experienced vacation rental manager and you have a good quality portfolio, you can leverage the cash flow from that and add a property that you can personally own to your portfolio. I mean, I just heard this all the time. I manage all these great properties, but I want to own my own. How do I do that? This is such a great way to do that. It's both owning your own property. It could be acquiring a portfolio. This is something I'm seeing a ton of, even outside of like the Nectar realm. I get calls all the time from managers that I worked with at Rented or when I was at LiveRes. They know I'm not going to blow smoke anywhere. I'm going to tell it to them straight. They sometimes want to know, like, hey, do you have a buyer? Do you know where I can, sell my portfolio? Or, hey, I'm looking to purchase a portfolio. How do I do that? How can I get the cash to do that? What unique options are there? And this is kind of where Nectar comes into play. So growing your portfolio it's increasingly becoming more simplified when you pull a company like Nectar in and add that to your capital stack.
Yeah, I love it. I think of both of your platforms. Oh, Derrick, sorry.
Yeah, just like I think kind of what you were leading to is a manager can also, if you have a property in your portfolio that just would be better if they slapped a new coat of paint on, added a pool, or improve the property, but the owner just won't come up with the cash. Like that's another great use case for property managers. We've had, where you can, the owner doesn't have to come out of pocket. You can refer them to us. We'll provide the financing for that upgrade. So that they can, go from being a laggard in the portfolio to a shining star, let's say.
Shining,
Yeah.
beautiful renovations. Yeah, it's another really, really huge use case of ours for sure.
I love it. It's the modernization of our ecosystem is fascinating to watch. Travis, couple ways. I want to hit you up both for kind of, talk a little bit more about the Hunters Collection and what you're doing and kind of bringing like a, sometimes described as like the James Beard meets Michelin star. I think those are your words, but tell us a little bit about that. And then I'd love for you to weave in as kind of an operator, like talk to us a little bit about how you see Vintory and Nectar at the end.
Sure. Well, yeah, all right. Starting with the 100 collection, it was, there's over 17,000 professional vacation rental managers in the U.S. And what we are is focused on the 95th or 99th percentile of the managers and properties. And so when you're asking about the James Beard or the Michelin star, what we are, we're creating hopefully the Michelin star in the vacation rental space. There's an all-time high right now in the lack of trust in regards to vacation rentals. Not a lot of trust and reviews. You've got a relatively large hotel group that's actively marketing against it. And we've just experienced 2 phenomenal years, and we're starting to see things slow down. So what we've been doing is going across the country looking for these phenomenal people. So aka the James Beard. James Beard, belongs to the chef. The Michelin star belongs to the restaurant. So we're looking for these really great chefs that are super local to their markets. They've got their finger on their pulse. They run really great organizations. And then we're looking for a collection of properties that we're building collaboratively with them, properties and people that deliver 100% of the experience that people are looking for. And so we're really trying to take the guesswork out of it. And so I think one of the cool things in regards to this conversation is, we already have, I think we're a little over 120 days in on being live, and we already have guests, we already have owners hitting our platform, looking to get vetted. And the only way to work with us is to be one of us. And so, part of our goal is to take RVOs off of the market and give them to professional managers. And so it's we're at the very beginning of what I would call Act 1, with a lot of different acts to follow. And so in regards to the industry, as I mentioned, I've been doing it for, this is my 15th year. I think the really cool thing about, what Brooke said earlier, he was talking about partners. I love responsible vendors in the marketplace, and it's like, they're not customers, it's like they're partners. We were at a conference back in Vegas, and I literally, had you not, kind of had to be there, but it was 5 different panelists, and literally Vintory was coming up every minute and 35 seconds, unsponsored by Vintory, I might add, which was quite amazing. But as we've gone across the country interviewing various different groups, I think we've interviewed well over 200 professional managers at this point, and I'm saying there's definitely a common theme in regards to their usage of Vintory. And then with Nectar, what I think Derrick and Jessica, have been doing, I made a comment about it recently, but it's like bad debt versus good debt. And you've got 2 really intelligent people right there who can take a look at a portfolio and tell you whether or not you can afford it. So you're not going to misuse capital, but you're going to use capital to your advantage, like either acquiring a portfolio or improving your portfolio or being able to lend to your owners. And especially in the competitive market that we're in now and that we're going into, where it's just getting more and more competitive, because the professionalism, I think, is constantly rising, which is just surprising to me, because this industry is the oldest industry of hospitality, and it's still those 17,000 people. It's a lot of mom and pops, but each one of these groups, Vintory and Nectar, are helping raise the bar, if you will, in regards to professionalism. So,
yeah, absolutely. I love that. It is interesting. It's an old industry, but it's new again every 5 years, it feels like. Let's talk some numbers. And I'd love for you all to put your business in terms of to the people we're speaking to, the audience we're speaking to. How should they think about when they collaborate with you? How can you help evolve their business, drive their business forward? Derrick, we're going to start with you. Brooke, we'll come into you right after that.
Yeah. So numbers, I mean, we're looking at margins. What are your cash flow margins? If you own the properties, what is your leverage? We're also looking at, things like experience and the like, the asset quality, but those are the most important things. So like the first thing we do is look, it is a risky environment out there. And we're potentially going to a recession. We at Nectar we're automatically going to knock 15% off the revenue. Whatever revenue you're making, we're saying like on a go for it basis is down 15%. I know that we haven't, seen that happening yet, but when it comes down to it, when banks are tightening or going out of business, they're going to pull back, and it takes some time for that to flow through the economy and turn into layoffs and lack of consumer demand. But it's baked. It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of like how many months until we see it. So that's the first thing. You have to be making at least 15% margins, because we're going to take a 15% revenue haircut just as a safety precaution in this environment. But there are a lot of people with really strong margin businesses where that's not not going to be a problem. And the way I look at it, if you're gonna say buy a $1.5 million, let's say property management company, just for easy numbers, and you want to put say 30% down, so you need $450,000 in order to buy this this company. We could advance you the $450,000 in exchange for $13,000 a month. So at the end of that's at a 5-year term. At the end of that term, we go away. You own 100% of the management company, you own the 100% of your existing company, and we're gone. So think about the amount of revenue that you're adding on if you buy a $1.5 million management company versus the $13,000 payment that you're going to be paying us. So that's that's high level numbers. But typically you want to see you making twice the amount that you'd have to be paying us back on a monthly basis. And that we back into sizing in that way.
But you guys have an ability to look at those numbers of a true operating business in our space and make sense of them and figure out what opportunities exist,
if you connect your bank account and your accounting software, or if you don't have accounting software, just send us a T12. Within a day, we'll be able to get you like numbers. This is what we think you can do.
Cool. Love it. Brooke, let's talk numbers for you as well. Like the impact on someone's business in terms of expansion of portfolio and even maybe setting them up for an exit. How do you think about that? How do you talk to customers about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about ways to grow your business, there's multiple levers you can pull. But, I would argue, obviously I'm biased, but I would argue the greatest lever that you can pull is growing your inventory. And actually our team has done some stats on that, and it's like 3.9 to 6x the impact of any other lever out there. And happy to share the data and how we kind of came up with that. But, if you look at what a property is worth to your bottom line, and I don't want to bore people with lots of numbers, but I'll just give you the summary. The average property, the lifetime value and net profits, assuming you fall within industry averages within net margins and churn, what percentage of your inventory do you lose in a given year? The lifetime value of in net profits of a new property rental program is equal to the first year annual gross booking revenue. So if Travis goes out there and signs up another property doing $125,000 in projected gross booking revenue, top line revenue, the lifetime value, if he falls within industry averages, is $125,000 in net profits over the lifetime of that property being in his rental program. So it's pretty significant, but that's not it. So you have this great cash flow that comes in each and every year. If and when you decide to sell your business, the true value of your management company, guess what? It's not your beautifully wrapped trucks. It's not your killer office. The true value of your management company are those contracts. That's what they're buying. And Jacoby Olin, C2G Advisors, he's done more M&A transactions than anybody in this space. Last year, he did over $200 million worth of transactions, M&A transactions. he said multiple times publicly, the average contract value of that $200 million of M&A was $33,000 per contract. So last year, to me, that's the best comp out there. Is, you know, it gives you, now, of course, it depends on a whole bunch of different factors and things like that, but it gives you a good baseline on average of what every one of those contracts is worth. So if you go out there and you sign up a new property, you have this great cash flow that's going to come on board, but also if and when you decide to sell your business, there's your retirement. And people are building serious net worth through just, you know, building up management portfolios and then selling them.
Yeah. Brooke, I'm gonna agree with something that might shock you. I actually agree that the best way to improve the value of your business is working on that portfolio expansion. I would say Wheelhouse, looking at revenue management, we think about revenue management, yes, as a driver of top line, but also like, how do you retain the best owners, best properties? How do you acquire new ones through having different levels of conversation? So I actually agree that we should add up to, like, we hope to contribute to that conversation as well, because we think it's so valuable.
Well, you have to do everything, right? It's not, you don't just pull one lever, you know, you have to add inventory. You have to kind of maximize, you know, through your top line revenue, through revenue management. You've got to optimize, you know, for marketing through, you know, channels and direct bookings and things like that. So it's not a either or, it's yes to all the above. But again, inventory has the quickest and, you know, largest impact for sure.
Yeah. And Travis, certification, how do you all think about the value prop of the 100s collection long-term for the folks you work with?
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is fairly easy. What we're using is what's called the barnacle method, which most people have not heard of, nor did I until I spoke to one of our great friends, David Ngadi, who helps us on a regular basis, one of those SEO experts in our field. But the barnacle method, just like barnacles on the bottom of the boat, the more barnacles there are, the healthier the community. And so what we're doing and what we're seeing, you know, you've got a lot of competitive markets, whether it's Outer Banks or Destin, Florida, or Charlottesville or Red Rocks. You've got to be able to have a differentiating story. And so, you know, when you're using Vintory for owner acquisition, you know, the first question is like, this is coming up on a regular basis. What makes you different than Airbnb? What makes you different than Vrbo? Why should I do this myself? Why should I hire you versus a co-host? And I think, you know, especially in our world, the companies that we're working with that are anywhere, you know, at this point from 3 to 50 years old, they are definitely able to differentiate and help that story. But we're like another arrow in the quiver. And, you know, suddenly it's, you know, your property can be a part of this giant collection that includes, you know, the lead singer of Metallica or whatever it might be. And so, you know, one of the things I talk about on a regular basis, like, and this kind of comes into your wheelhouse, no pun intended, but you know, I ask everybody over and over again, I'm like, if you had the opportunity to stay in the Fairfield Inn or the Ritz-Carlton, and both at $300 a night in Miami, Florida, which one are you going to choose? Great. Ritz-Carlton at 400 and 300, which one are you going to choose? Probably still Ritz-Carlton. You know, price might break you, but what we're really doing is trying to create the Ritz-Carlton, not because of luxury, but just purely because of experience in this space. Then, you know, you have in these competitive markets, you have some of the larger organizations driving down the management fees, much to the chagrin of the local managers, or you might have, you know, the RBOs lowering the, you know, the ADR. And the question I always ask, you know, everybody, would you rather have your property managed by Fairfield Inn or Ritz-Carlton? And of course, it's like, I'd pay more. I would hope for more. And, you know, again, it's, you know, experience driven when we reference the Ritz-Carlton, but that's what we're creating within in this space by all means, via the 100 collection.
And why now, Travis? I mean, you mentioned kind of the rising distress of our inventory, et cetera. Why was now the right time for you to launch this? And I want to ask you all the same question too.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be perfectly candid, I was going to launch this the first quarter of 2020. This little thing, might have heard of it, got it in our way, but fortunately, I was able to find a great co-founder, and we launched it right before Vegas. And I'd say the time is now because you've got a lot of capital entering in this space, and I don't think all of it is responsible capital, my personal opinion. And I think that there's no better person to represent their community than the local operator, the people that are boots in the ground. They know the greatest coffee shop, they know the restaurants They're not saying that their neighborhood bar and grill is Applebee's, but it's, Betty's Crab Shack down the road. And so they're really tied into their communities, and then they, represent great properties. But as we all know, it's like, there's a lot of people after the turf. And so, they don't feel like they have the competitive edge. And they need, if you will, it's like our head of PR is the person that ran the PR for the Michelin Star as well as the James Beard. I can't afford her, nor my co-founder or Kristen or the programmer, but suddenly it's like I really think of it as a Super Bowl team there to help you with anything, regardless of whether it's beneficial to us, but like pointing people in the right direction, whether it's capital or owner acquisition or responsible vendors within our space. So
Love it.
I'd say, hopefully that answers that.
Very well. Absolutely. And Jess, I want to go to you on this one too, because so you joined Nectar. What's the why now opportunity for Nectar? How are you all thinking about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Why now? So when we start thinking about Travis's comment about how the industry changes every 5 years, I actually think it changes every 2 or 3 years, to be honest with you. Like, it's not 2021 anymore. We see people coming across that are still expecting, the same multiples that they were able to get for their management company in 2021. That's just not how it works in 2023. Things are quite a bit different. And I think also to, Travis's point that he made earlier, there is a difference between good debt and bad debt. And I think this industry almost has a history of leveraging irresponsible debt. And this is why I think Nectar is in a very, very good position. We are seeing more and more vacation managers coming to us every single day. A lot of them are existing clients. I see a few clients even on this call, which is pretty awesome. But seeing these additional managers, understanding the uniqueness of a company like Nectar or the value of a company like Vintory, and then, eventually pushing their portfolio to the 100 collection, I think there's so much change that is going to happen in the next 6 months to a year and a half. We're going to see a whole other turn of a lot of those mom and pop shops kind of dwindling away or selling off their portfolio to some of these maybe not massive behemoth companies, but some of the larger management companies that are leveraging really great tools like 100 Collection, like Vintory, like Nectar, so that they are becoming more competitive in the marketplace.
Cool, excellent. And Brooke, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit for you. I think you've shared a really good why now, but I want to ask you something. My favorite question for all entrepreneurs, which is, what's something about your business that was kind of non-obvious to you when you started, but is now undeniable, multiple years later? Something that would maybe cause someone to think differently about how they might be able to leverage you, for example.
Oh man, I think just how fast this industry. Well, Travis said it earlier. It's like this business has been around forever, but yet still feels like we're in the early innings of it. And I think we are in the early innings of it, even though it's like one of the oldest industries out there. It's growing so fast. And I think you're going to see more and more, obviously, technology coming to this. You're going to see more and more private equity coming to this. And we're just in this early stages, and it's fun to be part of, to be for sure. So I'll let the other panelists, they've got some better answers than I do for sure, and I don't want to take their time.
Okay, all good. For me, the non-obvious question unpacks. So for example, at Wheelhouse, we built a pricing engine, and then people taught us they really wanted a revenue management platform, and they're actually really different things. It took us a long time to hear it. And Derrick, I guess with you all, I will go back to the non-obvious thing I heard walking down the hall with your teammate of go to your best owners and help expand their portfolio. But what else is kind of non-obvious about Nectar, again, with the goal of unlocking a new way to think about your business for anyone who's listening?
Yeah, I mean, it was non-obvious is if you look at the current environment, banks are pulling back. Capital is becoming more scarce and more expensive. And again, I know that it's the market is still competitive, but right now And over the next several, months, I think, is when the best deals are getting done. Is when you're going to find the little pocket of distress where someone just needs to sell because of whatever reason or the other, or, where you have, or you have owners that you could be growing organically with your owners, but your owner's just like, well, I'm not going to buy. It's a little bit more down payment. I'm going to hold tight. And we're having access to quick capital that can fill that capital stack, can give you the difference to gain market share, to buy deals in an environment now where a lot of people are pulling back, and you can lean into that. If you look at like a lot of the big companies, and not to compare, I know this vacation rentals and not, but a lot of the big companies over the course of history have really done most of their growing in times of recession, in times of pullback. And that's all the way from Carnegie Steel and JP Morgan to like, Google and Microsoft, which were also started in recession. So like, I don't know, that's kind of the non-obvious thing. Now is really the time when, it makes the most sense to be aggressive, to be thoughtful, but aggressive.
All right. We got time. We only have 9 minutes left all. I've got time for one more question, I think, and then we'll, I want to see if you guys have any other thoughts you want to share. But I want to understand how like your best customers use the platform. Maybe they're leveraging it to the extreme. And Brooke, I want to come back to you for this one, which is, tell us a little bit about like when you see a customer getting the most out of Vintory, what are they doing? How are they interacting with you, your team, your platform?
Yeah, I mean, well, and I just did a presentation. I was down at that STR Wealth conference, and I think I closed it out with it was consistency. The partners that we see that are most successful are consistent. It's the ones that dabble in it, the ones that kind of dip their toes, and then they run out, and then they don't use it, and then then they're like, oh shoot, I need new inventory, and they just do this mass scramble to try to get it. It never works. The ones that have a consistent approach, the ones that understand that it is the greatest lever that you can pull, and have a consistent approach to constantly market, that are constantly in touch in front of their potential owners, are the ones that are successful. It's why, like, I think I heard a stat that 97% of the current market is not in the market to buy a new car, but yet what, car dealerships are constantly advertising. They are constantly getting in front of you, and they're going after that 3%, or they're going for the 97% that isn't shopping. But when they do fall into that 3%, they're ready to buy. And it's the same kind of approach here. You have to constantly be in front of them. And it's not just in one method. It's not just through direct mail. It's not just through email. It's not through digital. It's kind of this omni-channel constant approach, honestly, is what needs to happen. That the power users we see that are most successful have a consistent approach.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of C2G and Jacobio, and are they looking at something that and valuing that when someone's trying to turn over their company? Are they able to tell a story around that?
Yes, it's a great point. So the multiple of earnings is usually the number one method, and it ranges anywhere between, it depends, but typically 4 to 6 times your earnings or your EBITDA. The companies that are growing the fastest are the ones that are on that 6 times or closer to the 6 times on the higher end, the ones that are adding more and more inventory. So it's obviously, if you have a growth engine that's already running on autopilot, you're going to get a much higher multiple. And it just, again, from that perspective, there's a reason why private equity is buying all these companies. It's predictable recurring revenue. It's a fantastic business model, and I will never start another business. And as far as I live, that's as long as I live, it's not a predictable recurring revenue business.
I hear you. And Travis, what do you see emerging with your with the Hundreds collection? Like, what do you think? Where do you think this goes for your best partners, and how are they going to leverage you all to create value?
Great question. So the beautiful part is they don't have to do much. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for them, via our marketing team, our PR, our outreach, branding. But really what we're doing is building a brand, which is Act 1, if you will, and then Act 2 is our loyalty program. And so we will be the very first group to be able to track Jane Doe to the Outer Banks, to Jackson Hole, to Red Rocks, to Austin, and know her LTV, her annual value, and be able to reward her off of that. And most importantly, we'll also be introducing Jane Doe to all these great people and properties across the country, across the globe. But we'll also be able to know that John Doe is a horrible guest and nobody wants them. And so we're really, I mean, we're being leveraged, already, showing up in the top 10 of search for a lot of our partners because of the way that we built it. We're always driving direct traffic into their platforms. We're not going to be a transactional OTA. I've said this 1,000 times to our folks. It's, I might have a 100 collection hat, but I always wear the vacation rental manager hat. I love our industry. Our whole goal is to make it easier for vacation rental managers to stay in their chair. And so by providing, them other great relationships and or vendors, it's like, I think it's like probably 70% of our clients are using Vintory. And then I learned about what these guys are doing at Nectar, and I was like, absolutely loved it. It's like, great, you can go out and buy more properties. You can go help fix our properties. And like, I just, hopefully people will leverage us and be able to come to us as the safe space, like no skin in the game. It's like being able to recommend awesome vendors within our space. Is you posted a couple, maybe a month ago, or reposted, how crowded the tech space was, and what is it, like 110 companies or something like that just in the US alone, and not all of them are equal players. I mean, I think I'll let the people that are not doing a good job out of it, but there are a lot of great companies, and it's not as easy to see. And I think that's the sad part is, as we've all mentioned, as private equity or more money flows into the space, there's a lot of money going into tech. It's not all great. It's not all really doing the returns that it needs to be for, the fellow VRMs. And so I really can't count the ways that, a VRM could leverage us. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
But we've been quite fortunate. We work with some of the best VRMs in the space.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, everything from the certification to the publicity and kind of the ways you can merchandise all the way through loyalty is fascinating. Derrick and Jess, to you all, which is, tell us about how your best customer is leveraging you so other people can learn from that.
I'll let Derrick take this one, but then I want to make sure we at least save a minute. Jim Bisley, hey Jim, over in Park City, across the canyon. I'm over in Salt Lake, so there's a couple of questions I want to make sure we hit those too.
Great. So Derrick, you got 30
but
seconds.
Derrick, hit that.
Hit it.
Second. Look, real estate is capital intensive. It just is. Our best customers, all of our customers are awesome. We have top operators who are the number one on AirDNA in multiple different markets, from the Jacksonville Beach, Galveston, throughout the country. And when it comes down to it, is as a real estate entrepreneur, it's good to have a capital partner that will be there for you, that's fast, that understands your business, and that can allow you to be aggressive and take advantage of the opportunities out there. Right now is a time where there are opportunities. They're out there. Having fast, flexible capital helps you have an edge on your competitors to make sure that you get those opportunities. And that's
one last thing I want to add to that too is Nectar we are very curated. I like to always say we don't operate in a black and white box. There's gray, right? Like, we're going to have a conversation with you. We're going to evaluate your portfolio. We're going to try to get really creative, because our ultimate goal is to help you achieve whatever goals you have, whether it's growing your business or buying an acquisition or buying a portfolio, whatever it is, we want to help you get to that, as long as, the numbers all line up, but we want to work directly with you. So.
Yeah. And Jess, I'm going to come back to you in a second. I will say there's some really good questions here in the chat that are longer than the most questions I see on the webinar. So Jess, what caught your eye? We'll address that question and we'll close it out. What was the one that got?
What caught my eye in the chat?
Yeah. Was it?
Well, Jim Bisley, definitely. I think, probably Brooke can have a conversation with him outside of the webinar. I will definitely say, Jim, you should 100% use Vintory. They're fantastic. And I've seen them work with small and large companies. And it's interesting for me because I've worked on the vendor side for so long. I think this is why management companies will come to me and ask me questions like, what software do I switch to? Who do I use for revenue management? Who do I use for owner acquisition, retention, and growth? I can answer those questions because I'm unbiased, right? Like, I've been on the vendor side for a long time. So 100% Vintory. Jim, you can connect, I think, after the call. Brian Wong had a couple of good questions. I think also Vintory can probably touch base with them. afterwards. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, Brian had another long comment here.
Yeah. So I'll be able to get these comments out, and I'll connect folks to the right people.
Yeah.
I know we're basically at time. First of all, I want to say thank you all for joining. I know this is a fun topic for me because I was really eager to learn more about it and kind of dive into your all's businesses as kind of pre-work for this convo. I think what you all are doing is fascinating. I'm going to go back to just the image of, I really do think there is something here around a kind of a modern flywheel. I think Vintory, what you all are doing is fascinating. I mean, I hope revenue management plays into actually the owner acquisition, owner retention conversation. I think really valuable service you are providing. I think Derrick, Jess, what you guys are doing with Nectar, awesome opportunity. I love people who actually know our business, who have built in our space for a long time. Seems like the right folks to be able to provide financing. And Travis, you do a lot for the whole damn industry, and you just wear the way you treat everyone in this space is emblematic of how we want to roll. So what the Hundreds Collection is doing is obviously a great way to highlight the strengths of our industry. So thank you all for everything you guys are doing, everything you all are doing, sorry. Any closeouts?
I think we should share our email addresses because I think there are a number of questions, and I don't know that I can't post to everyone in the chat. If anybody has questions, you can reach out to me, Jess at usenectar.com, or Derrick at usenectar.com. Derrick is DERRICK. There you go. Thanks, Andrew, for putting that in the chat. Perfect. That's perfect.
And I'm going to have to pull other emails, but thank you so much all. Really appreciate your time, for panelists, for joining us. Travis and Derrick, if you could, or Brooke, sorry, if you can add your email, great.
Sure.
And otherwise, there's a reason we chose these companies, the best of the best. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're awesome. Thanks for having us.
All right.
See you later, all.
Bye.
Right.
See ya.
Bye.